Hey guys, in this episode we're going to review the film Phantom Thread. It's gotten a bunch of critical acclaim, including Oscar nominations, and this is supposed to be Daniel Day-Lewis's last performance on screen. We're going to talk about his performance and just our thoughts overall on the film. Episode 7 of the Reel-ists Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the Reel-ists Podcast. I'm Donald.
I'm Oscar.
And our producer Ruben is here with us.
Hello.
Hello, he says. Remember, this is the Reel-ists Podcast where we review films and consider how certain scenes and aspects from the film tie into real life. This episode, we're going to be discussing a film that's gotten a ton of critical acclaim. We just found out it got a bunch of Oscar nominations today. It's the movie Phantom Thread.
Yep, Phantom Thread. 6 nominations.
Six nominations.
I thought I was making it like 2, but I got surprised. I'm not going to lie. I really didn't think it was going to get a lot.
Just seeing, watching all the other award shows and everything else.
It not getting, yeah, exactly. That's not getting nominated. Very odd. But, all right, we'll see if it's worthy, I guess, by the end of this episode.
Yes,
right?
we will. I mean, Oscar and I just saw this a couple of days ago, and
on Popcorn Day, I want to say
on
that.
National Popcorn Day, we did celebrate. Hopefully, you guys did too. Yeah, dude, that was
promoted
cool.
That. We should have promoted
I know,
that.
we totally should.
It was Thursday. It aired, and Friday we could have told. We failed.
Missed opportunity. It's all right. We'll get better. We'll do better.
We'll
be
promote
better.
Holidays.
Oscar, what did you think about Phantom Thread initially? Walking out of the theater, end credits. How'd you feel?
The biggest thing, and we talked about it going to the car in our quick review, actually, was just the relationship of the characters,
Right.
two main characters, Alma and I really want to say this from the top of my head. I'm trying to get this right. It starts with an R.
Reynolds.
I was thinking Randolph for whatever reason. I was like Randolph, but I was like,
thinking
I don't want to
Rudolph.
say it. Yeah, Reynolds and Alma. They definitely had an interesting relationship. I didn't buy it. I really trying to be understand this was a different time period. Maybe there's different reasons why they stuck through it. I know she enjoyed the rich life that he had for being a successful fashion designer. But it was just one of those where it's like there were so many times where I guess in today's modern times you wouldn't deal with that. Like you would be like, I don't want to deal with that kind of attitude and respect and disrespect, should I say. So that was the biggest thing that I walked out of was just that relationship. I was like, everything else about the movie was fun. The dialogue was great. Just the development of both characters were great.
Right.
Just that relationship. I was like, why couldn't they just leave it as friends? Make it where I don't love you in that way, but I definitely want to work with you kind of business. I just didn't like that. Clearly.
Yeah. Clearly you felt some way about it.
That was my 2-minute rant. New segment.
All right, well, just to give a little context to the movie, here, I'll read a quick synopsis of the film. It says, set in the glamour of 1950s post-war London, renowned dressmaker Reynolds Woodcock and his sister Cyril are at the center of British fashion, dressing royalty, movie stars, heiresses, socialites, debutantes, and dames with the distinct style of the House of Woodcock. Women come and go through Woodcock's life, providing the confirmed bachelor with inspiration and companionship until he comes across a young, strong-willed woman, Alma, played by Vicky Krieps, who soon becomes a fixture in his life as his muse and lover. Once controlled and planned, he finds his carefully tailored life disrupted by love. With his latest film, Paul Thomas Anderson paints an illuminating portrait both of an artist on a creative journey and the woman who keep his world running.
Before we get sued, where did you read that from?
Oh, I read that on...
Felt like that was like a review.
No, it wasn't a review. It was just, I just Googled it. It's the first thing that came up.
It was the Google's little
Yeah, the
result?
Google's little
Okay.
thing. Yeah. It wasn't
long.
any...
That's funny.
Yeah, I'm not going to name anything. Just in case. But no, it was Google. It was all Google.
Okay, what were your thoughts?
So, I definitely... Okay, so it was one of those movies that I had to... Like every movie, apparently, I have to go home and sleep on it. I don't know why. Initially, if I see something, hear something for the first time, watch a movie for the first time, I have to, have time to process. It just won't... I have to gather my thoughts. I have to think about it. I have to, meditate on it. It's weird. And I did like it. Let's see, where do I begin? What did I like about it?
What do you think about the relationship, given that I said I wasn't believing it?
Well, I believed the relationship. First of all, this movie is definitely a character-driven film. It's not an action movie. It's not, it's not a movie where like the plot is super important in terms of,
for sure.
There's no big mission or like they're trying to get somewhere.
They kind of had a little bit of like that final dress that had to be completed for like that.
Yeah, for that
one pie and
like debutante or something. Yeah, they did do that.
I guess that was like...
But that was really the only kind of like...
It was a
subplot. Like frantic, scene where it was like, oh, we got to get this, and it's... But that's about it. I mean, this movie is really...
That's as close as you're going to get to like a plot. Real. Like the plot was taking over a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, this movie definitely just focuses on the characters. It's, Daniel Day-Lewis as Reynolds Woodcock. And I feel like this movie, it's definitely like focusing on his life. And I feel like
his late, I don't want to say late life, but not his entire life.
Like when he's established, him and his sister are running this kind of, renowned, fashion, I don't want to say fashion company. I mean, but they make dresses, that's what it is. He's a designer, but I feel like you get, what I do like about this film is I feel like you get Reynolds, like 3 different relationships with Reynolds in all of them. I feel like you have the relationship with him and his sister that they focus on a little bit.
Cyril.
That you have the relationship with him and Alma, obviously, which is a large portion of the film, and then you have his relationship with him and his work and his art and he does look at his work making these dresses it's art. Like it's not implied that he makes these dresses, for like financial wealth or, to gain all this notoriety or, it's not like he's trying to go with the trends and be what's, chic, which is kind of like what there's like a scene in there where he's like, what is that word even mean? Like, what does that even mean? Like, he's not trying to be chic. He's not trying to be, he literally makes dresses because like that is his art.
Yeah. He's got it down. Like, the beginning of the film, he knows his routine. He knows what he needs to do and how it gets done. It's like clockwork almost. Like he knows what time to go to bed, what time to wake up, what time to eat breakfast. Can't have sound when he's having breakfast.
Yeah.
Like he has his routine.
He has a routine and he sticks to it. And it's like meticulous. Like there's like, like he eats, he sits this way at the breakfast table and eats his breakfast this way, and like all these little nuances to his character that I feel like Daniel Day-Lewis really did a good job capturing.
I believed it. Yeah, I really felt he was able to portray that kind of behavior and make it believable and not like, I don't want to say like stereotype. Like he wasn't like making it too obvious that this is his routine. This was just like literally him doing his own thing.
It's like just watching. It's like we're literally just watching Reynolds Woodcock.
Right, exactly. Like it doesn't feel like it's like a script of like, he's making sure. Oh, am I really sitting the right way? Like the director wanted. It felt natural.
He just embodies it just like seamlessly, which is why he's an amazing actor and he's.
But until Alma comes in.
Yeah. So then Alma, who I love, I loved her character and. She's kind of this like, strong-willed, like has her own opinions kind of girl too. And she kind of comes in and I don't want to say like disrupts his life. It's not like a disruption in like a bad sense, but definitely interjects and kind of throws him off his everyday routine.
Right. Cause she's a working class. She's definitely more of, I live my day, however it goes rather than I wake up at 5. I eat breakfast at 6.
He's he's like that.
Completely opposite.
She's like, well, let's see where it takes us, kind of, flowing in the wind, running through the fields, kind of gal. Like in terms of like just, not everything is so routine. Where with Reynolds, everything is routine.
That was a great start. I believe the start was believable. I liked that part. The part that I just started losing it was when he wasn't liking that being interrupted at first. Which is fine. That's who he is. I have no problem with him not liking her disrupting that. I just felt like she was not leaving because was it just because she was too comfortable? I get it. I don't know if I'm trying to just consider it in a modern day, because this is not a modern day setting. But I'm really trying to be like, in a modern day, I feel like a natural thing to do would be like end it with this person.
Yeah.
But again, he is on the like rich class. He's on the high end, so I can see how that being an attractive thing. They kind of hint that she enjoys it, but they don't necessarily say that's why she's staying either.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a confusing part that makes it uncertain for me as to why she's staying.
Well, I think this is what I got from it. At first, yeah, like you said, she's like works in the countryside. She, and he comes in and she's working in a diner, and that's where they meet. And he comes in and it's kind of flirty and like orders all this, like 10 different items, and then it's like, don't write it down. Can you remember it? And and they kind of have this like back and forth. Yeah, they kind of have this like little flirtatious banter back and forth, and I think that kind of like sparked something. And then he asked her to dinner and starts to like kind of open up his life to her. Asked her to dinner
and took her back to his place,
house,
but not for that reason.
Not to get some, which is what normally would happen in a movie.
To design a dress for her, which is fine. And then it's just I felt like that was a very odd first date.
I think, yeah. I mean, I definitely think it was. Yeah, it was like unorthodox. Like it's not like that's how normal first dates go. But I think she realized that he wasn't like a normal everyday kind of man. Like he was.
Well, when you go to that house, I would have.
And I think that those are the things that kind of initially like drew her in. Like, he's like, and too, like he was older than her, so it's like he's older. He's, he's very sure of himself, and he kind of, like, I think those things can be very like appealing to a young woman. Like I don't know. I feel like it's like one of those like. You hear like sometimes like young women, when they're like, oh, it's this man and he's older and he's, charming and this and that, and like maybe that was the initial draw. Right. He was, he made beautiful dresses for like royalty. And
did she never indicate she wanted to dress?
No.
Like that's the thing that is very odd, is that they really didn't. Maybe that's a flaw, I guess I would consider the film, is that they really didn't explain her choices. She made the choices. She made these big choices of, I'm sticking through this relationship, and it just didn't feel like, I just didn't feel why. I didn't understand why, and I guess that's a problem that I'm having, is that a lot of the times it was just, I guess the scene that comes to mind when thinking about this is that one time when he was like, you can leave.
Mm-hmm. When they were arguing at the dinner table?
Yeah, when they were arguing at the dinner table. It was like right in the middle of the film. And she got upset about this, and she goes all the way to get the poison mushrooms to make him sick.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, mind you.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler time. That's just like, see, like why does she do that? And then she still stays with him, and then she starts to take care of him. It's just.
So I think they have, couples that just have like a weird relationship that like the outside looking in people don't get, but the two people get it. I feel like it's one of those kind of relationships, because I feel like in the beginning, like when they were on that date and when he invited her back to her place and they were sitting by the fire and she had said, you act like you're so tough or you're so strong or something like that. And he was like, I am. But I feel like in that moment that, like, I think that was supposed to let the audience know that she sees through that facade that he's putting on. Like, he may act so tough and like, strong, but like it kind of seems like Alma can see through that and see that he's not. And I think I feel like she's constantly wanting him to show his like more vulnerable side and kind of like show her that he does need her in a way. So going back to like, or fast forwarding to when she's making him an omelet with poisonous mushrooms to make him sick, like she's doing that so he will have no choice but to rely on her for her to take care of him, and it's
which comes back to he finds out and he's okay.
So at the end of the movie, she's doing it again because she did it. She put a little mushroom in like his tea or something and made him sick, but he didn't know that for the first time.
Right.
The second time, she's right in front of him, chopping these mushrooms up, sauteing them with butter, making this omelet, and it looks good. And I swear I could smell it through the movie. Like if there was 4D smell-o-vision, like It looked like it smelled really good. But anyways,
what did you do? What did you do after the next morning?
The next morning, I made a mushroom omelet.
Inspired by
the film. No, not poisonous mushrooms.
But see, that's the part that I'm having a problem with, is that I get complicated relationships are real. That I'm not saying the movie failed to do. I get that part of it. But when you're making a movie, you're supposed to clear that up. You're supposed to show us why they see that with each other. You're seeing it more than I am at this point. I just failed it. Like, I really see them. It was like one of those, like, it started as a relationship. It kind of felt like it wasn't working. And then it should have just been one of those where it's like, we may not be destined to be together in that manner, but we can definitely be in each other's lives. I feel like that would have been a great way to turn it around. But it just got very, like, I know how to get you sick kind of mentality. It's like she felt like she had an upper hand. He kind of enjoyed that. He kind of understood that. I think the development of
I feel like too, like, as you say that, I feel like throughout the whole movie, it's this kind of like back and forth, like, struggle of who is wearing the pants kind of feel. Like, I feel like they both like have their opinions and their ways they want to do things, and they're both trying to, like, kind of get the other one to break in a sense. Not like, I don't know. I mean, and that's kind of just initially what I thought. I was like, you know, like in that scene and it was a little earlier in the film, but when he is kind of dressing her, and he, you know, she's like, I don't really like this fabric, and he's like, that's, you know, one of the best fabrics around, and blah blah blah, and she's like, well, I don't really like it, and he's like, well, maybe you just don't have taste, and she's like, well, maybe I have my own taste, and they just kept going back and forth, and he's like, maybe you have no taste at all, and she's like, well, maybe I like what I like, and I feel like, and he was like, stop, like, because, like, it seems like they're both trying to get the last word, and that's just kind of the sense that I got in the relationship throughout the whole film. I don't know if you got that, but that's what it came across. I mean, it came off as.
Yes, I see the power dynamic. I see that.
Yeah, like a power struggle.
I see what you're saying on that part.
But sometimes, even though it's a power struggle, it can. I feel like too. There, like, sometimes it can be like, just because there's a power struggle doesn't mean like, oh, we're not meant to be together. Like, because it could be fun for them to do that. Like, all that back and forth, and like, oh, like, who's gonna win this time? Who's gonna win this little I get, fight? Yes. You know, like,
right. I get that. That's the relationship of them. Is that, like, we love in that sense compete to, you know, be on, you know, be the top dog or whatever. I get that. I don't feel the movie made sense of that at the end. I feel like the movie really just went with, you have to accept the relationship. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I'm sticking too much to like today's standards, today's, like, differences between that period and this period. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm not necessarily thinking of it for this movie. I'm thinking just as a relationship overall. Maybe
well, you know what I think about too? I feel like, because this was set in like 1950s, right?
Right.
Well, it's not. They're in another continent, so I don't know if we. You know, I mean, you could kind of argue it from that sense, like, oh, they're not, you know, from the United States. Maybe they do things differently in London and the countryside over there and that in Europe.
1950s London, yeah.
But I feel like too, back then, like, people weren't so quick to, like, oh, this relationship isn't working, I'm leaving. Like, I feel like now, like, people do that a lot. People are like, okay, this isn't working, I'm out. Or I'm back, you know, or like, you want to leave, then leave, and they're like, okay, I'm leaving. But maybe I feel like back in that time period, that wasn't so, like, often.
Yeah, I get it.
So
again,
maybe maybe the time period had something to do with it.
Right. Maybe if I did my research in 1950s London, I would see that, you know, that wasn't a thing, or that was a thing. Maybe I can get the historical side of it. That's possible.
Or maybe she was just. I mean, because there was nothing really.
Let me just say this.
All right, go ahead.
If I'm poisoning you,
yeah,
are you really gonna be like, all right, I can dig this. You're poisoning me. You're making me feel like I need you.
Yeah, that
it'd be like, you're gonna kill me.
That is, yeah, dude. That part is a little. That's like my only kind of, I guess flaw about the movie, like, and I obviously that's supposed to, like, elicit some reaction in the audience, like. That was written like that, and him like knowing about it and and you can even kind of see when like after she made him the omelet and how he's taking his time to pick up his fork and to cut it and to put the bite to his mouth and kind of just toying with. I don't know if he's toying with her or if it's the audience that's getting toyed with, because we're like, oh my god, does he know? Is he gonna take the?
And then say kiss me before I'm sick.
Kiss me before I'm sick. So like So at this point he knows that homegirl is poisoning him.
I guess I just can't. I can't let that be like, okay. I guess that's why I'm saying this relationship. I don't know.
I'm just curious as to what like Paul Thomas Anderson, the director, was like wanting us to get from that scene.
Right,
what was the there was a point. I just don't know what it was. Maybe I missed it.
If he's accepting that he's older, like he's not going to be doing his fashion design much longer, and he just needs to focus on another part of his life, I can understand that. They didn't make it sound like that, but I can understand if that was the case. So I guess there's just things that I feel like the movie would have stuck its landing had it just been a little bit more detailed in what the characters want. I didn't feel like I understood what the characters want. I understood their like complex relationship, but I didn't walk away with like, this is what he wants. He wants to be with her now and not leave. Because I feel like the next morning he's still going to be like back to his like routine, like don't mess me up.
Yeah.
He progressed. He definitely learned to adapt to her, but I don't think he changed as a person.
Right.
He just adapted to an additional person with his sister. And his sister was also trying to manage the business for him as well. And she didn't like Alma at first. She grew to adapt to him.
Yeah.
They got married, actually. So
and then they had a baby, right?
Was it?
Didn't they have a baby at the end when they were in that park in that last scene? And
yes.
They had
I forgot about that little part. Yes, that's right.
Just going back to the sister and Cyril, I do want to. I liked her character because it's kind of like she was, her brother's right hand man in terms of like them running this business together, and she knew all his little, what am I trying to say? The details of like his routine, his routine.
She knows it.
She knew what sets him off. She knows all those little minute details. He likes his porridge this way. He likes silence when he's sketching. He likes blah 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 blah. And you could in the very beginning of the film when it was one of Reynolds' girlfriends, and she was like, I'm waiting for you to love me, and why are you shutting me out? And the sister kind of like took care of it, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Right. Like, all right.
So we know that his sister does that all the time. Like his sister has her brother's back. Like whether it comes to business, whether it comes to relationships, like his sister is like the right hand man.
They definitely,
which is interesting.
In which, so when Alma comes in, she doesn't like the competition because Alma is slowly becoming involved in the business side, not just the romance side, or like the model, just being like a model. It starts to actually get a say, and gets to be there when they putting it together, when all those pieces. So that was a fun day. I like that. I like that like she wasn't like, I'm trying to kill you. She was just like, if you're gonna be in this, I need to make sure you can stick through the thick and thin and be in there. I'm like, if you can't, then get out. Let me tell you now. Like, she wasn't saying it directly, but she was making sure like, if you're gonna be his girl.
Yeah.
You need to be able to handle this.
Right. And then also, she did. And what I like too is that eventually, like, you could see like she started to like grow to like Alma, because there were a couple scenes where it kind of seemed like even they were on the same side. One specific scene was they were eating breakfast, and it was the sister was like had said something, gave some news to Reynolds, and he was like, basically like, why would you tell me this right now? It's going to upset my whole day. And she was like, oh, well, chin up. Like, kind of like it was kind of like she pulled in Alma in that sense. Like because Alma had come in and she was like, he's acting like a baby. Like,
she doesn't know the routine.
She doesn't know the routine.
Like,
so like when she's scraping her toast super loud or chewing really loud, and that really ticks Reynolds off. And he's like, and he throws a little temper tantrum. And she's like, I feel like he's acting like a baby. And I feel like the sister was kind of like well, you're not wrong. Like, yeah, I mean, that's just because at first she was like, well, that's how he is. You just don't know his routine. But I feel like throughout, like, as the film progressed, the sister kind of was like sided with Alma in a couple of ways, is what I got.
I see it. I see what you're saying. Ultimately, when it was confirmed, but up until the point it wasn't confirmed, she was having like the, like, don't worry, I'm still the next man up in that sense.
Yeah.
Like when he got ill, she was like, I know what to do.
Yeah.
Alma just wanted to be like, oh, just stay with him and, you know, do the little nice caring things. She was like, we need to get a doctor. Mm-hmm. And Alma was like, no. And then Reynolds was like, no. So
yeah.
So it was
F
like
off.
It was like she adapted as well. So that's, yeah, they both adapted to Alma coming into their lives, mm-hmm. which was done well. I feel like they adapted naturally. I didn't feel like it was like 5 minutes before they were yelling at each other, and then the next 5 minutes they were just making love and couldn't stop thinking positive things. Like, it wasn't that kind of like bad transition. It definitely was a flow.
Like, they had to adjust.
Yeah, in any real life sense, where someone comes into your life, at first it challenges your routine. You know, it's like, okay, in this point, I have to make sure I respect their space. I can't just do what I was doing before. You know, that kind of thing. And then it gets edgy at first. You know, it's like, okay, well, if you can't handle what I'm doing, maybe you need to reconsider being here. And then after a while, it's like, okay, I know what you do now, so I'm going to make sure I do this before you leave, after you leave, kind of things. Mm-hmm. So I love that. I love that they adapted to Alma, and it was seamless. It definitely had no problem on that part.
Yeah.
So I give that part, but not to say that the relationships themselves, but just the transition was done well done. My favorite scene was definitely that scene that you mentioned when they were having that little banter of who can have the last word, and mm-hmm. he was just like, enough. Like, he was just like, stop. You're not gonna beat me. Like, and I really liked that, because when I was watching it, I wanted it to continue. I wanted to see, it was like, well, you know, is this gonna happen again? I really was like, that pumped me up for the relationship. Mm-hmm. That was definitely the most memorable part of it. Well, no, I take that back. The most memorable was her poisoning him with mushrooms.
With shrooms.
For sure, like, that was a fun scene that I would love to see again. And I wish there was more of that. They kind of had more. It wasn't that innocent. Like, that part was innocent. Like, she was just like, I know how to fight you back. Like, I know how to respond. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to back down. But then later on in the relationships, it was like they knew each other at that point. So that was like their first time that they really were testing each other.
Yeah.
So I really liked that part. That was my favorite scene.
That was definitely my favorite scene too. Not to steal your answer, but that was that whole banter back and forth was great. And I liked how at the end too, when he finally was like, that's enough, and then like she kind of had like a little smirk, like, yeah. And I loved that, because I'm like, she's like, yeah, like, I got him to, like, you know,
I got in his head.
I got in his head kind of thing. And I just feel like, I really feel like that kind of just set the tone of, like, that's kind of how, I'm not saying like that's how the relationship was all the time, but like that was a part of their relationship, like, kind of like, not both of them strong-willed people. Both of them had opinions. Both of them had ideas and wanted things done they wanted to do things. Well, Reynolds wanted to do things his way because it was just so routine. But I feel like for Alma, it wasn't so much about, I want to do things my way, but it was like, I don't want to do things your way all the time, or I don't want to like tiptoe around you all the time, or be on your schedule all the time. So I think that's where like it kind of, her like desire to kind of quote unquote break him a little bit. That's kind of,
for sure. I mean, I'm really trying to think of any other scene that may come to mind that kind of sparks that. One thing that I keep thinking back and forth is their cursing, like their curse words were like very like emphasized, like when they were telling the doctor "fuck off."
Yeah,
I think that's the first time we actually.
I was gonna say, he really said it.
That's the first time we cursed.
We're now a rated R podcast.
We'll
TVMA or whatever. I don't know what ratings podcast.
We crossed
We're
it.
E for explicit. I think it's E, right?
I think so. That was fun. We broke a barrier here. Everyone just witnessed us going to
That was Oscar Rivera that said that?
I mean that it was just I those moments, and there was a lot of those throughout the film, like those like language.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those. I remember doing this at the movies. Like I was like, what? Like, did they just say that?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was not expecting. I was expecting like that kind of like, please leave.
And
please
they kind of said,
don't
like,
leave
when
me."
they had the table scene where they were fighting, where they were arguing at the dinner table, like, they said, he said that again, too, didn't he? Didn't he say, like,
they
if you want to, like, basically, if you want to leave, then, you know, F off or whatever. I don't know how he said it, but.
I like how you're saying it, the clean version. It's already said.
Yeah.
It's already said.
I'm not going to stoop to your level. No, but yeah, it was really, that was also another one scene that I really liked. I guess all the like scenes that where they're like arguing, those are like those are the most like entertaining ones.
They were, but yeah, that was just something else that I know stood out to me, was just those moments of like the language. I was really not expecting it going into it. I really, really, really thought it was going to be the like old, like not old English, but like the, you know, I don't get to that level. I'm very above
very
that.
proper,
Yeah.
very prim and proper.
Please escort the building kind of like terminology. So that was fun.
So knowing what we know about the film and everything, this supposedly is Daniel Day-Lewis's last gig as an actor, last performance on screen.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Do you feel like he like this was a great ending to an amazing career for him, if that is true?
If that's how
now noted, yes. Like I don't you know, I don't know what other films you've seen of his. Only ones that I've seen are The Crucible and Gangs of New York. And in both of those movies, the character that he was portraying was more, I don't want to say entertaining, but like more well, at Gangs of New York he was just really, really villainous. And then The Crucible he was like caught in this like crazy like love triangle / witch hunt / blah blah blah. So he was like he was like really this like full of passion, and you know, and in Phantom Thread he was very his character was very like on the quieter side, didn't like say a ton, but a lot of it was just a lot of what he was thinking was implied through like, you know, his facial expressions or subtle movements. So it's not like he was the most like rah rah hyped up character in this movie.
Right, he didn't go like and do.
It's not like he had to go like
big monologue.
Or like, you know, like in a knife fight and he had to pretend to like try to, you know, it wasn't like that. It never got like that in this film. But I do feel like he just, like we kind of said in the beginning of the podcast, like he embodied Reynolds Woodcock, like all these little like minute details about him, you know, him as a artist, him as a designer, as a brother, as a person to be with in a relationship. Like I feel like he just got it, and I feel like it was.
I will say, given that it is his final performance, supposedly, if that's the kind of
watch him come out with the movie in like 4 months,
totally like defeating the purpose of talking about him like this. If he wanted to go with a character-driven like movie, and that's how he wanted to end his acting career, then I think he did a great job of choosing that kind of role.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was something he decided midway through filming. I'm not really entirely sure at what point he decided this is my last film. As long as it was something he was knowing in advance, like this is my last film, I think he did do a great final bow as an actor. Mm-hmm. But if this was something like he midway through, he was like, you know what, I don't want to do another movie anymore. This movie is not really entertaining me. I'm getting bored. If that's how he went into that decision, where this movie was like, okay, I think I can do something else in my life now, then I would hope he does another one, that he does a movie that he wants. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, that's just him. Yeah. But if he did say, like, for sure, before I sign this contract, I want you to know this is my last, to the agent, this is my last movie, then I think he did exactly the way he should have. If not, then I would say he definitely should do one more of what he wants to do, the kind of character he wants to portray. Mm-hmm. But
I'm satisfied if this is his last film.
Right. If it was his choice, I'm satisfied too.
Yeah.
But if it was like, He was like, you know what? My back's hurting. I really don't want to do acting anymore. Just making it. I'm done. Like,
yeah, if he's like, you know what, I'm 60 something. I don't know. How
then
it
I
is,
say, then I
we were like, okay, do one more and make sure this is the one you want to end it with.
But if this is your choice, good job. Good job. It was a great performance. Nominated Best Actor.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's gonna win. That's my just thoughs on that.
Yeah.
I don't think that performance is gonna win.
There's some other great nominees
that we won't say because this is only about Phantom Thread.
Yeah, we're just talking about Phantom Thread. We'll talk about that in another episode. But okay, final real score then. With that said,
with all that being said, reflecting on it, thinking about it, 3.5.
3.5.
3.5. It didn't stick the landing of the relationship, which is my biggest thing. Had it stuck the landing, probably would have given it a little bit higher. It just did not, unfortunately. It was a really well character-driven film, and for that, I have to applaud it for it. Because each character on their own, they grew, and they really went from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. Without that relationship's the only thing that just didn't stick with me, but they definitely grew. Yeah, and I really liked it. It was definitely, as you said, a character development, driven movie, and it nailed that. Great. For the characters themselves. Yeah, all three of them. So okay, 3.5.
I'm gonna give it. All right, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 reels. I really. I'm always like aching and whining about, I want more character development. I want more backstory. And I feel like I finally got some of that in this film. Really got a sense of who these characters were. And like you said, how they developed throughout the film, but how they all had to adjust to each other. Yep. And I feel like it was done realistically. I feel like the movie, I really just liked how it was a portrayal of like an artist. It wasn't, it really was like he really looked at that his career was like his art, and like he would die for it. He would sacrifice it seemed like he would sacrifice like love for it, in the beginning, but then I guess not, because he kind of chose to be with Alma, but he still made dresses. So but I like how the even like the sets, like the setting, the house, like the kind of, I guess it was like a townhome that he lived in. Mm-hmm. Like just all the details that made the film what it, like, it just seemed very like elegant and like sophisticated, and like it brought me into like that time period, is I guess how I'm trying to say it. So I really liked it. I thought it was a good film. It definitely wasn't like we said, it was character driven. It wasn't like super, no, it wasn't action packed at all. But like, I'm okay with that. Like, cause I like a movie that really dives into characters. So that is why I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 reels.
Well, given that the Oscars were nominated, just to cover some, do you think, you don't have to explain, just say yes or no.
Okay.
Do you think it should win Best Picture? My answer is no.
You're saying I can only say yes or no?
Yes. You can't explain.
Sucks.
We'll cover why.
No, no.
Best Actor. This is, do you think he'll win, not should he win?
I don't think he will win.
Okay, what about Best Director?
No.
Oh, no for me too on actor.
Yeah.
It was just great competition. It was.
It's not that this. I feel like this movie is like it.
It can. Yeah.
There's such good competition, like in those categories. So I feel like it's gonna go to someone else.
Right. It didn't. I get what you're saying. It was one of those that, if you judge it in its own movie, it's a very great movie, but it as a like award winner, I don't know if it did enough. I think that's kind of like our both consensus. But we'll explain more on the competition in a future Oscar podcast episode. That's not like me. It's like myself. Like my.
I know.
Like check my podcast out.
What happened to Donnie? What happened to, or is it Donald?
The Academy Awards podcast episode.
There we go.
We'll explain that more. I just wanted to see what your initial, because it was announced today.
Okay. So. I know. Very exciting. Very exciting. Can't wait. So, with that being said, I think that's about it. Do you have any other final thoughts? Questions, comments, concerns, side remarks of Phantom Thread?
I don't have any questions.
I know you didn't have questions.
I have my thoughts.
You had
my
your
final
thoughts.
thoughts. So, this movie, going into
should people go see it?
Yeah, I definitely think. Well, yes, but if that's the kind of movie they like, if you don't like a drama, slow movie, wait to see it at home to kind of understand why it was nominated.
Yeah.
If you have Movie Pass, go see it.
Yeah.
Movie Pass. You
better go see it.
Why
if you have
not?
Movie
Right?
Pass.
If someone buys your ticket, go see it. But yes, if it's definitely one of those. If you love character-driven movies, this is one you have to see in theaters for sure.
Sweet. Totally agree. Piggybacking on what you said. Awesome. Well, I think that's about it for this episode. I want to quickly shout out DJ Apnick. DJ Apnick in the mix.
Ruben, is he liking that?
Yeah, does he like when we say that?
I think he thought it was funny.
Okay.
We're keeping it.
Maybe after like the 8th time, he's like, all right, guys, we get it. You don't have to keep doing it. Shout out to him for our intro song. Also, remember to make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Team Reel-ists. That's Team REELISTS, no dash. And remember, you can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud. We out here.
Spotify, we want to get on you.
Yeah, Spotify. We're gonna try to come for you next. And
the website too.
Oh, the website. What's the website? I don't know the website.
Oh my gosh.
Libsyn.
I'll cut that out.
Okay. We didn't say the website last time. Did we say the website last time?
We're listing it.
No, but you really should keep that. I don't know the website.
I know. It's the Reel-ists Podcast.libsyn.com.
Okay. Do you want me to say that? I can say that right now.
They can't hear me.
Okay. Also, you can check us out on our website. Damn it.
TheReelistPodcast.libsyn.com.
Oscar, you say it.
TheReelistPodcast.libsyn.com.
TheReelistPodcast.libsyn.com.
LIBSYN.
LIBSYN. The Reel-ists Podcast.
Oh my god. Okay, continue.
But thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys, for listening.
We appreciate it.
Always
give us your feedback. We always want your feedback.
Yes, please let us know what you think. Anything we didn't cover in this episode, felt like we should have covered, or just your thoughts in general, just let us know. Holla at you, boys.
Apologies for anyone that did not want a curse word in there.
Yeah,
even though it's bleeped, most likely, but
it might not be bleeped.
It's not gonna be.
Ruben is what I meant to say. Just announced it's not going to be bleeped. So thank you for taking our podcast to an explicit rating. This was supposed to be a family-oriented podcast.
I just want to clarify that was dialogue from the film. That was not me.
It was a direct quote. Direct quote.
That was me reading the line from the movie.
Gotcha. Anyways, thanks guys for listening. See you next time.